Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive? Today we're exploring the hero's journey. Not just in stories, but maybe even in our own careers. Think about it. Could those ancient myths and modern blockbusters actually hold some career advice? Our guide for this deep dive is this super insightful academic paper. It looks at the Odyssey, the Epic of Gilgamesh, and get this, even some modern stories. We're not here for just a quick summary. We're aiming for aha moments, those insights you can actually use in your professional life. So before we jump into those epics, I'm curious. Have you ever felt like you're on a journey in your career, not just moving up the ladder, really facing challenges, learning, maybe even changing as a person?
It's a fantastic question, really, because that's what Joseph Campbell was getting at with his monomyth idea. It wasn't just about analyzing stories. He was suggesting that there's this underlying structure, this blueprint for hero stories across different cultures and time periods. What's amazing is how much the structure has influenced storytelling, even beyond mythology. Think about some of the most popular movies, books, even video games that use this pattern.
So you're telling me this monomyth thing, it's not just some dusty old concept, it's like the secret sauce for great storytelling. I'm intrigued, but tell me more. What exactly is this structure about?
Well, Campbell laid out three main stages: departure, initiation, and return. Now, this is where it gets really interesting for us, especially if we're thinking about careers. It's not about physical journeys or slaying dragons. It's about leaving our comfort zones, facing challenges that make us grow, and then, ideally, returning with new skills and a fresh perspective.
Okay, I like where this is going. So, thinking about our careers, departure is like quitting that safe but boring job to start your own company. Or maybe taking on a project that pushes you way beyond your comfort zone.
Exactly. It's that leap into the unknown, embracing it even if it feels scary. And think about Odysseus in the Odyssey.
Mhm.
He thinks he's just sailing home after the Trojan War. Should be simple, right? But then, bam, he's thrown into this whirlwind of challenges, challenges that force him to adapt and evolve. That's departure. Stepping out of your comfort zone and realizing the journey is about to get really real.
Okay, so Odysseus is like that colleague who always volunteers for the tough projects, totally clueless about what they're getting into. What happens next? What is this initiation stage?
Think of initiation as a trial by fire. Odysseus runs into the Cyclops. He's tempted by Circe. He faces those deadly sirens. Each encounter pushes him to his absolute limit, tests his resourcefulness and resilience. He messes up sometimes. He loses things. But every challenge shapes him into a stronger, more adaptable leader.
So it's not just about always succeeding. It's about how you deal with those setbacks, those times when you have to dig deep and find a solution. That's pretty powerful, no matter what your job is.
You're absolutely right. And what's really striking about Odysseus's initiation is that it's not just about physical stuff. He's forced to look at his own flaws, his pride and his impulsiveness. He learned to be strategic, to rely on his smarts as much as his strength. And that inner transformation, that's what sets up the final stage, the return.
Okay, so after dealing with those cyclopean bosses and navigating office politics that would make Circe jealous,
Right.
what does return look like in a career journey? Does Odysseus even make it back home after all that?
He does make it back, but it's not a simple happily ever after kind of thing. And this is where this paper gets really insightful. It points out that Odysseus coming back to Ithaca, it's not just about the place. He's changed. Deep down, he's not that same hot-headed warrior who sailed off. He's learned patience, cunning even, and how important his crew is. Qualities that any good leader needs, really.
So return, it's not about just coming back to the same old job. It's about using those lessons you've learned, bringing back new skills or a more mature way of working.
Exactly. Think about coming back from a super challenging project or maybe a leadership program. You face those monsters, right? Learn from your mistakes, and now you're ready to lead differently. Maybe even see your whole role in a new way.
Okay, so I'm seeing how this ancient myth could apply to a career today. But honestly, Odysseus' journey is a bit much, don't you think? Most of us aren't battling actual monsters at work. So is this hero's journey really a universal thing? Or is it just a good story?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. This pattern, it's not just some ancient Greek thing. The paper actually compares it to the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Hmm.
Now, that's a story from ancient Mesopotamia, totally different culture, thousands of years earlier. But Gilgamesh, he goes through a surprisingly similar journey.
Wait, wasn't Gilgamesh all about trying to become immortal? That's not exactly a normal career goal, is it?
True, but the paper focuses on how he tries to reach that goal. Gilgamesh starts out arrogant, powerful, but reckless too. He loses his best friend, goes through these terrifying trials, and in the end, his journey teaches him about accepting his limits, about what a real legacy means, not just personal gain. Now, think about that in the workplace. How many times have we seen leaders who are all about short-term wins, pushing too hard, and they end up burning out or pushing their teams away?
So you're saying Gilgamesh is like that super ambitious executive, the one who learns the hard way that it's not just about climbing the ladder, it's about building something that lasts. A team, a company culture, or something like that. That's a lesson that still applies today, for sure.
Absolutely. And what's even more fascinating is how this hero's journey shows up in a spiritual and ethical way, too. The paper talks about the Indian epic, the Mahabharata. The hero there, Arjuna, he faces a huge moral dilemma on the battlefield. He starts questioning the whole idea of duty and what's right, his internal struggle, his journey to understanding his dharma, his purpose. It's something anyone can relate to, especially if you're dealing with tough choices at work. Ethical stuff.
So we've got Odysseus learning about leadership through tough times, Gilgamesh realizing that ambition has limits, and Arjuna wrestling with these big ethical questions. It's amazing to see how this pattern shows up across different times and cultures. But let's be real, these are still epic stories, full of gods and monsters. Does this hero's journey thing really apply to a normal person's career? Someone stuck in a cubicle dealing with spreadsheets and meetings all day. Honestly, I get that these stories can be inspiring and all that, but can we really see ourselves in them? Our everyday work lives? As part of this hero's journey?
That's the really exciting part, actually. This whole framework, it's not just for ancient heroes or mythical quests. It's all over modern storytelling, too. Think about some of the biggest movies, even those superhero blockbusters everyone loves. They're often using these same patterns.
Okay, I'm listening. Give me an example then. How does, say, Iron Man fit into this whole hero's journey idea?
Let's break down Tony Stark's story. He starts off as this super smart but totally self-centered industrialist, right? It's a classic departure when he gets kidnapped. He's forced to confront his own mortality and what his actions have caused, his initiation. It's all about building that first Iron Man suit, yeah? But it's also about facing his own issues, realizing he can't just keep making weapons.
So the superpowers are cool and all, but the real change is happening on the inside.
Exactly. And that inner struggle, that's what makes people connect with him. He's got flaws, he makes mistakes, but he learns and grows. And in the end, when he sacrifices himself to save everyone, well, that's a pretty powerful return. He's not just going back to his old life, he's totally changed what it means to be a hero. It shows that even someone who starts out messed up can redeem themselves.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
But Iron Man, he's still pretty extraordinary, right? What about something a bit more normal, something maybe even I could relate to?
Let's take The Lord of the Rings as an example. Frodo, he's just a regular hobbit. Suddenly, he's thrust into this huge quest to destroy the One Ring. He leaves the Shire, his comfort zone, and faces all these crazy dangers. Sound familiar at all?
Ooh.
Think about those times you've had to step up at work, maybe lead a project that was way outside your comfort zone. That's Frodo leaving the Shire.
Yeah, okay, I'm starting to get it. So facing those orcs and that creepy golem, that's like dealing with office politics or a really tough client.
Think about the psychology of it all. Frodo is tempted by the ring's power. Just like we might be tempted to cut corners or compromise our values, for a promotion or a quick win. But he keeps going. Even when it seems impossible, he learns to depend on his friends, his fellowship, and his journey, even though it's fantastical, it reflects the struggles we all face. When we're trying to achieve something bigger than ourselves, whether it's launching a successful product or building a great team culture.
So what you're saying is, even if I'm not fighting some Balrog monster, those everyday work challenges, those times when I'm under pressure and have to make decisions, those could be my own heroic moments.
Absolutely. And what's incredible is that these patterns, they go beyond traditional stories. Video games like The Legend of Zelda or God of War, they use this framework too. They grab us because they let us experience those heroic moments, those trials and wins in an interactive way.
So it's like we're programmed to connect with these stories, right? Whether it's ancient myths or modern video games, because they show us something deep inside, this human need to grow, to be challenged, to overcome things.
Exactly. And that's what I find so powerful about this hero's journey concept. It's not just a storytelling tool. It's a reflection of what we're all capable of. It reminds us that we all have the potential for growth, for transformation, even for heroism in our own ways.
So next time you're feeling stuck, facing a crazy deadline, or dealing with a tough situation at work, remember those heroes we've talked about. Think about Odysseus' resilience, how Gilgamesh changed, or Frodo's determination. You might be surprised how this ancient pattern can shift your perspective, give you the power to face your challenges, and ultimately help you write your own heroic journey, one step at a time.
And that brings us to our final thought for today. Take a moment to think about your own career. What departures have you had? What initiations pushed you to your limits? And how have those experiences shaped your return? You might be further along on your own hero's journey than you realize.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the hero's journey. We'll catch you next time, ready to explore more fascinating ideas. Ideas that can help us navigate our work lives and our personal lives too.